Hello, friends. I've got a fresh batch of stories for you today, and I have to tell you, some of these really made me question everything I thought I knew about how reality works. We're diving into experiences that completely defy logic. Moments where the world seems to glitch like a computer program having a hiccup. These are from real people, just like you and me, going about their normal lives when suddenly something impossible happens. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's dive into these absolutely mind-bending stories. Story 1. The Birthday Party That Happened Twice, by you, Time Loop Terry. I need to tell this story because it's been eating at me for 3 months now, and I just need to know if anyone else has experienced something similar. It was my daughter Emma's 7th birthday party back in August. We'd planned this whole thing at the local park. Nothing fancy, just cake, some games, about 15 kids from her class. The weather was perfect. One of those ideal late summer days where it's warm, but not too hot, you know. The party was supposed to start at 2 p.m. My wife Sarah and I got there around 1:30 to set everything up. I remember checking my phone, 1:32 p.m. exactly, when we started unloading the car. We hung streamers, set up the picnic tables, arranged the goodie bags. Everything was going smooth. The first kids started arriving right at 2. Emma's best friend Lily came first with her mom, then a bunch more showed up all at once. By 2:15, everyone was there, and the party was in full swing. The kids were playing red light, green light, Sarah was taking photos, and I was manning the grill for hot dogs. Here's where it gets weird. At exactly 2:47, I know because I was timing when to bring out the cake. Everything just stopped. Not like time froze or anything dramatic like that. More like someone hit a reset button. 1 second I'm watching the kids playing, and the next second I'm back at my car. It's 1:32 p.m. again. Same exact time on my phone. Sarah's next to me, holding the same box of decorations. She's mid-sentence saying the exact same thing she said before. Did you remember to grab the lighter for the candles? I stood there completely frozen. I mean, what do you even say? I looked around, and everything was exactly how it was an hour and 15 minutes ago. No decorations up, no kids, no anything. Just us arriving at an empty park. I tried to play it cool and said, "Hey, weren't we already here?" Sarah looked at me like I was crazy and said, "What are you talking about? We just got here." But here's the thing. I remembered everything. Every single detail of that first party. I knew Lily would arrive first. I knew that at 2:23, one of the kids would spill juice on the white tablecloth. I knew that at 2:35, Emma would ask if we could do cake early because she was too excited to wait. And it all happened exactly the same way. Every single thing. When Lily's mom walked up, I knew she was going to say, "Sorry, we're a few minutes early. Lily was just too excited to wait." She did, word for word. When the juice spilled, I already had paper towels in my hand. Sarah asked how I knew that would happen. I didn't know what to tell her. The only thing that was different was me. I tried to change things, small stuff. I stood in a different spot, I said different things. But everyone else did exactly what they did the first time. Like they were following a script they didn't know existed. I'm a software engineer. I know how crazy this sounds. I've been over it 1,000 times trying to find some logical explanation. Maybe I had some kind of weird déjà vu episode. Maybe I dozed off in the car and dreamed the first party. But it was too detailed, too exact. I knew things I couldn't have known. I watched my watch go from 1:32 to 2:47, then back to 1:32. That's an hour and 15 minutes I lived twice. The party ended up being great. Emma had a wonderful time. But I spent the whole thing feeling like I was losing my mind, watching everything play out exactly as I knew it would. Even now, 3 months later, I can't shake the feeling that I witnessed some kind of glitch in reality, like someone noticed an error and just ran it again. Has anyone else experienced time repeating like this? Not déjà vu, but actually living the same stretch of time twice. I need to know I'm not alone in this. All right, so check this out. This next one is completely different, but equally bizarre. Story 2, The Man Who Wasn't There, by You Ghostly Encounters. Last month, I was waiting for the elevator in my apartment building. I live on the 14th floor of this old building in Seattle. It's one of those places built in the 70s with the wood paneling in the hallways and that weird orange carpet that I swear has been there since day one. It was around 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. I'd just gotten back from a late dinner with friends. I hit the elevator button and waited. When the doors opened, there was a man inside. Tall guy, maybe 6'3", wearing a gray suit that looked expensive. The weird part, he was facing the back corner of the elevator. Not the doors, not the side, the back corner, like he was in timeout or something. I hesitated for a second because, that's weird. But I needed to get to my apartment, so I stepped in. I said, 14, please, even though I could reach the buttons myself. He didn't move, didn't acknowledge me at all, just stood there, facing that corner. I reached around him and hit 14. The doors closed and we started going up. The whole ride, this guy doesn't move a muscle, doesn't shift his weight, doesn't turn his head, nothing. I'm standing there trying not to stare, but also keeping an eye on him because this is genuinely creeping me out. We get to the 10th floor and the elevator stops. Doors open, nobody's there. Doors close. We keep going. But I notice the guy still hasn't moved, like at all. And I mean not even the tiny movements people make when they breathe. I'm starting to really freak out now. We hit 14, the doors open, and I practically jump out. But curiosity got the better of me, and I turned around to look back. The elevator was empty. Completely empty. I know what you're thinking. He must have gotten out super fast or something. But I was looking right at it. The doors opened. I stepped out and immediately turned around. It takes maybe half a second. There's no way someone could have moved that fast. And even if they could, where would they go? I was right there in the hallway. I actually went back and hit the button again. Same elevator came back up. It's the only one that services floors 10-15. Empty. I rode it back down to the lobby. Asked the night security guard if anyone in a gray suit had come through. He looked at his monitor and said, nobody had used the elevator in the last 20 minutes except me. He even pulled up the security footage. There I was, getting into an empty elevator, standing there talking to nobody, reaching around thin air to press my button, getting out on 14 and turning around to stare at an empty elevator like a crazy person. But I know that man was there. I saw him. I stood 2 feet away from him for 30 seconds. I could smell his cologne, something expensive and woody. I could hear the fabric of his suit rustling slightly when the elevator moved. I remember thinking his shoes looked like they cost more than my rent. I'm a rational person. I don't believe in ghosts. I wasn't drunk or high. I've gone over this 100 times and I cannot explain it. That man was there, and then he wasn't. And apparently, he was never there at all. What do you even do with something like that? Here's another one for you, and this one involves multiple witnesses, which makes it even stranger. Story 3. The Intersection That Changed by You Roadway Mystery. I've driven through the intersection of Maple and 3rd in my hometown, literally thousands of times. My parents' house is on one side, and the grocery store, post office, and pretty much everything else is on the other. I learned to drive going through that intersection. I could navigate it blindfolded. 3 weeks ago, on a Wednesday afternoon, it was different. I'm not talking about construction or a new traffic light or something normal. I mean the entire intersection was fundamentally different. Where there had always been a four-way stop, there was now a traffic circle. A full-on European-style roundabout, with a garden in the middle, mature trees, and those yield signs you see in fancy neighborhoods. I sat in my car staring at it for probably a full minute. My brain just couldn't process what I was seeing. This wasn't new construction. You don't grow 15-foot trees overnight. The pavement looked weathered, like it had been there for years. There were worn patches where cars had driven the same paths thousands of times. I called my mom. I literally called her and said, "Mom, when did they put in a traffic circle at Maple and 3rd?" She laughed and said, "Honey, are you feeling okay? That roundabout has been there since before you were born. Your father used to complain about it when we first moved here." I'm 32 years old. That intersection has been a four-way stop for 32 years. I have photos from high school where you can see the stop sign in the background. I took driver's ed and specifically remember practicing stopping completely at that exact intersection because the instructor said cops like to watch it for rolling stops. But here's the thing that really messed me up. I went home and looked at those old photos. The ones where I knew there was a stop sign. Now they show the roundabout. Same photos, same everything else. But now there's a traffic circle where I know there used to be stop signs. I started asking everyone I knew about it. My brother, who I taught to drive at that intersection, says it's always been a roundabout. My best friend from high school, who used to pick me up every morning, and we'd go through that intersection, says it's always been a roundabout. The lady at the post office, who I've known for 20 years, says it's always been a roundabout. But I know it wasn't. I even went to the town records office. I had to see when this supposed roundabout was built. The clerk pulled up the records, and there it was. Approved and constructed in 1987, 3 years before I was born. There were planning documents, construction photos, the whole thing. All dated 1987. I'm not crazy. I'm not confused. I have driven through a four-way stop at Maple and 3rd thousands upon thousands of times. I have waited at those stop signs in every weather condition, at every time of day, for 3 decades. And now, suddenly, it's a roundabout, and apparently has always been a roundabout. My wife thinks I'm having some kind of breakdown. She made me go to the doctor, got me checked out. I'm fine. Brain scan normal, blood work perfect, no signs of anything wrong. But I can't let this go. Somewhere, somehow, either the world changed, or I shifted into a different version of it. Because I know, with every fiber of my being, that intersection had stop signs. The weird part, 2 days after I noticed the roundabout, I got a Facebook message from someone I don't know. All it said was, "The intersection changed for me too. You're not alone." When I tried to respond, the account had been deleted. So I'm putting this out there. Has anyone else noticed something in their everyday environment suddenly being different? Not gradually changing, but just being fundamentally not what it was. because I need to understand what happened to me. Okay, this next one is a deep dive into something that honestly kept me up at night after I read it. Story 4. The Duplicate Day Investigation by U Pattern Finder 404. I'm a data analyst by trade, which means I notice patterns. I track everything: steps, calories, expenses, even my mood. I have spreadsheets going back years. This obsessive tracking is what made me notice that Thursday, October 5th, 2023, happened twice. I don't mean I lived it twice like a time loop. I mean it exists twice in my records, and both versions are real. It started when I was updating my expense tracker last week. I noticed I had 2 entries for October 5th. Not duplicates, 2 completely different sets of data. One showed I worked from home, ordered Thai food for lunch, spent 47.33, and walked 3,847 steps. The other showed I went to the office, bought a sandwich from the deli, spent 13.50, and walked 8,926 steps. At first, I figured I'd messed up my dates, but then I checked my phone's photo library. I have photos from both versions of October 5th, time-stamped correctly. In one set, there's a selfie I took at my home desk at 9:15 a.m. In another, there's a photo of the sunrise I took from the office parking lot at 7:45 a.m. Same date on both. This is where I started to really freak out. I checked everything. My fitness tracker has 2 different recordings for October 5th. My work login shows me accessing the system remotely and from the office. My credit card has charges for both the Thai food and the sandwich. My text messages show 2 different conversation threads for that day. I spent hours trying to figure out how this was possible. Maybe there was some kind of technical glitch that duplicated everything, but the data is too different, too specific. These aren't copies, they're 2 distinct versions of the same day. So I started investigating deeper. I reached out to people I'd interacted with on October 5th. This is where it gets really weird. My co-worker, Jennifer, remembers having lunch with me in the office that day. We apparently discussed her daughter's college applications. But my roommate Mark swears I was home all day because he remembers me complaining about the Thai food being too spicy. Both of them are right. I have the evidence. I remember both days, but not clearly. It's like trying to remember a dream while you're having another dream. When I focus on one version, the other gets fuzzy. But certain details from both are crystal clear. I remember the Thai food was pad cuw, with extra vegetables. I remember the sandwich was turkey and Swiss with mustard. I remember Jennifer talking about her daughter wanting to major in marine biology. I remember Mark borrowing my phone charger around 2 p.m. All of this happened on the same day, October 5th, 2023. I've gone through everything I can think of. There's no October 5th in my records for any other year that matches. It's not a filing error. The metadata all confirms the date. My bank shows both charges posted on October 5th. My employer's system shows me in 2 places at once. The only theory I have is that somehow, for one day, I existed in 2 slightly different versions of reality simultaneously. And somehow, my obsessive record-keeping caught both versions. I've started checking if this has happened on other dates, but so far, October 5th is the only one. It's like reality had a hiccup and accidentally created 2 instances of the same day, and I lived them both. I'm still investigating. I've reached out to others who track their lives obsessively to see if anyone else has noticed duplicate days in their records. So far, 3 people have gotten back to me, saying they found anomalies they can't explain. If you have detailed records of your daily life, photos, fitness data, expenses, anything, check October 5th, 2023. Check it carefully. You might find you lived that day twice too. And if you did, please reach out. We need to figure out what happened that day. Because if reality can duplicate a day, what else is it doing that we're not noticing? Man, that last one really gets to me. The idea that we might be living multiple versions of days and not even knowing it. Wild stuff. Let me know in the comments if you went back and checked your October 5th data. I'm genuinely curious. Hey, it's me. Quick question for you all. What's the most mundane thing that's ever made you question reality? I'm not talking about big glitches or anything dramatic. I mean like finding your keys in a place you'd already checked 3 times, or having everyone remember a conversation differently than you do. For me, it's this thing with my coffee mug. I have this blue mug with a chip on the handle, and I swear the chip moves. Sometimes it's on the left side, sometimes on the right. My wife says I'm imagining it, but I've started taking photos. Drop your weird, mundane glitch in the comments. I read every single one, and honestly, the small ones sometimes creep me out more than the big ones. All right, let's get back to the stories. Story 5, The Vanishing Walmart Customer, by You Retail Glitch 88. I work at a Walmart in Ohio, and before you ask, yes, I see weird stuff all the time. But this thing that happened last month was different. This wasn't just typical Walmart weirdness. It was a slow Tuesday night, maybe 9:30 p.m. I was working the electronics section, basically just killing time until close. This woman comes up to me, middle-aged, brown hair in a ponytail, wearing a bright yellow raincoat even though it hadn't rained in a week. She asks about phone chargers. I start walking her over to where we keep them, explaining the different types. She's asking normal questions. Which one charges fastest? What's the difference between the brands? That kind of thing. We're having a completely regular interaction. We get to the phone accessories aisle, and I turn to show her the Samsung chargers she asked about. I'm pointing at them, talking about the different cable lengths, and when I look back, she's gone. Not walking away. Not in the next aisle. Gone. The aisle is long and straight. It's one of those main aisles that runs from the front to the back of the store. There's literally nowhere she could have gone. In the half second I looked away. Even if she ran, which would be insane, I would have seen her. The aisles on either side are visible from where I was standing. I walked the entire electronics section looking for her. Checked the next department over. Nothing. Yellow raincoat lady had completely vanished. Here's where it gets weirder. I go back to my register, and there's a phone charger sitting on my counter. The exact Samsung model we'd been discussing. But here's the thing. It's not from our store. The packaging is different. It's an older style we haven't carried in at least 2 years. I know because I remember when we switched suppliers. I check the cameras because now I'm genuinely freaked out. My manager pulls up the footage, and we watch it together. There I am, walking through electronics, talking and gesturing. But I'm alone. The whole time, I'm alone. On camera, I'm having a full conversation with nobody, pointing at products, nodding at responses that aren't there. But I didn't imagine her. I can still picture her face perfectly. She had this little scar above her left eyebrow. She smelled like vanilla extract. She made a joke about her teenager going through chargers like they were disposable. She was real. She was there. My manager, trying to be helpful, suggests maybe I was tired or stressed. But then he looks at the charger on my counter and can't explain where it came from. It's not in our system. The SKU doesn't exist in our database. It's like it materialized out of thin air. I kept that charger. I don't know why. It works perfectly, by the way. I use it every day. But every time I plug my phone in, I think about the woman in the yellow raincoat who existed just long enough to have a conversation about phone chargers. then vanished like she was never there at all. The security footage is still on my phone. Sometimes I watch it, trying to spot any sign of her. A shadow, a reflection, anything. But there's just me, alone, talking to empty air. Except I wasn't alone. I know I wasn't. This next one is short, but absolutely mind-bending. Story 6. The Backwards Birds by Anonymous. This happened yesterday morning and I'm still trying to process it. I was having coffee on my balcony, watching the city wake up. It's part of my morning routine. 10 minutes of just sitting outside before the day starts. I live on the 8th floor, so I get a good view of the street below and the building across from me. There's always pigeons. They roost on the building across the street and spend their mornings flying back and forth, doing their pigeon things. I've watched them every morning for 3 years. Yesterday, they were flying backwards, not turning around and flying the other direction, flying backwards. Their heads facing forward, wings flapping normally, but moving backwards through the air, like someone hit the rewind button on just the birds, but nothing else. I sat there, with my coffee halfway to my mouth, just frozen, watching these pigeons glide backwards across my view. They'd take off backwards from the ledge, fly backwards in these perfect arcs, land backwards on the power lines. But their movements weren't reversed. They were looking around normally, their heads moving like regular birds, just flying backwards. I grabbed my phone to record it, but the second I raised it, they all switched to normal. Mid-flight, like someone hit play again. Suddenly they're flying forward like nothing happened. I thought maybe I was having some kind of stroke or something. But then I heard my neighbor's door open and she goes, "Did you see that? Did you just see the birds?" She saw it too. We stood there on our respective balconies, trying to explain what we'd just witnessed. She said it lasted about 30 seconds for her too. Same thing. Birds flying backwards but acting normally otherwise. I've been watching those pigeons all day today. They're flying normally now. But for 30 seconds yesterday morning, the birds forgot which direction they were supposed to go. Or maybe time forgot which direction it was supposed to flow, but only for the birds. My neighbor and I have agreed to watch together tomorrow morning. If it happens again, we're both recording. Has anyone else noticed animals doing impossible things lately? Not just weird animal behavior, but genuinely physics-defying stuff. Because I can't stop thinking about those backwards birds. Speaking of investigations, this next story is from someone who went deep down the rabbit hole, trying to figure out their glitch. Story 7. The House That Exists on Thursdays, by U2, Thursday. Mystery. I'm a mail carrier in a small town in Vermont. Same route for 7 years. I know every house, every door, every barking dog, every garden gnome. That's why I noticed when a house that shouldn't exist started appearing on my route. It's only there on Thursdays. The first time I saw it was about 2 months ago. I'm walking my usual route down Elm Street, and between number 42 and 44, there's another house. Number 43. A small, blue Cape Cod-style house with white trim and a red door. The mailbox says, Harrison. This threw me off completely because there's never been a 43 Elm Street. The lots aren't big enough. There's barely 15 feet between 42 and 44. Just enough for a driveway. But on this Thursday, there's a whole house there. Not squeezed in, not looking out of place. It looks like it's always been there. The houses on either side have adjusted. They're farther apart. The driveways are repositioned. The entire street geometry has changed to accommodate this house. I had mail for 43 Elm Street. 3 letters addressed to M. Harrison. I stood there staring at them, then at the house, completely baffled. But I had a job to do, so I delivered the mail, The porch was real, solid under my feet. The mailbox opened with a normal squeak. Everything about it was completely mundane, except for the fact that this house did not exist yesterday. Friday comes, I'm walking the same route, and 43 is gone. Just the narrow space between 42 and 44 again. The houses are back to their normal positions. No sign there was ever anything there. But the following Thursday, it's back. Same house, same mailbox, more mail for M. Harrison. I started documenting everything. Pictures, measurements, detailed notes. The house appears every Thursday, as real as any other house on the street. I deliver mail there. The mail disappears from the box before the next Thursday, so someone's collecting it. But Monday through Wednesday and Friday through Sunday, nothing. Just that narrow gap. I've tried everything to understand this. I've walked around the back of the houses. On Thursdays, there's a full backyard for number 43, with a garden and everything. The other days, that space doesn't exist. I've checked city records. No 43. Elm Street has ever been registered. I've asked the neighbors. They look at me like I'm crazy when I bring it up on non-Thursday days, but on Thursdays they talk about the Harrisons like they've always been there. Here's what really messes with me. I've kept track of every piece of mail I've delivered there. It's all legitimate. Bank statements, utility bills, personal letters. M. Harrison is getting real mail from real places, but these companies have no record of that address when I've called to check. Last Thursday, I decided to knock. I had to know who lived in a house that only exists once a week. I walked up those very real steps, onto that very solid porch, and knocked on that very normal door. A woman answered. Maybe 60s, gray hair, kind face. She smiled and said, "Oh, you're the mail carrier. Would you like some water? It's hot out today." I said yes because I didn't know what else to do. She invited me in. The inside was completely normal. Furniture, photos on the walls, the smell of coffee brewing. We sat in her kitchen and talked. She told me she'd lived there for 30 years, raised 2 kids in that house. She showed me photo albums. There she was, in front of the house, in different decades. The photos looked real, aged appropriately. I finally worked up the courage to ask her something weird. I said, "This might sound strange, but do you ever notice anything unusual about Thursdays?" She looked at me for a long moment, then said, "You can see it, can't you? Most people can't. We're only here on Thursdays now. The other days, we're elsewhere." Before I could ask what she meant, my phone alarm went off. End of lunch break. She walked me to the door, patted my arm and said, "It's nice that someone else knows. Makes it feel less lonely." I walked away in a daze. When I turned back to look, the house was still there, but something about it looked thinner, like it was barely holding on to existing. Today is Tuesday. There's no house at 43 Elm Street, but I have photos on my phone of the inside of that kitchen. I have a note in my pocket that says, "Thank you for noticing. M. Harrison," that she handed me as I left. And in 2 days, I'll have mail to deliver to a house that exists 1/7 of the time. I've been a mail carrier for 15 years total. I've seen a lot of weird stuff. But this has fundamentally changed how I understand reality. Because if a house can exist only on Thursdays, what else is flickering in and out of existence that we just haven't noticed? All right, this next one involves someone's reflection doing things it definitely shouldn't be doing. Story 8. My Reflection. Started leading by Yu Mirror Mirror. I first noticed it 3 weeks ago when I was brushing my teeth before bed. You know how you kind of zone out during routine tasks? I was just going through the motions, watching myself in the bathroom mirror without really paying attention. That's when I saw it. My reflection finished brushing before I did, just by a second, maybe less. But I saw it clearly. My reflection lowered its toothbrush, and then I lowered mine. Like it knew what I was about to do, and did it first. I stood there, toothpaste still in my mouth, staring at myself. My reflection stared back, perfectly normal, moving exactly with me again. I raised my hand. It raised its hand at the same time. I tilted my head. Perfect synchronization. I figured I was just tired. But then it kept happening. Little things at first. I'd reach for my coffee mug, and my reflection's hand would start moving a fraction of a second before mine. I'd turn to leave the bathroom, and in my peripheral vision, I'd see my reflection turn first. Always just slightly ahead, like it was anticipating my movements. I started testing it. I'd stand in front of mirrors and make sudden movements, trying to catch it off guard. But whenever I was actively watching, really concentrating, everything was normal. It only happened when I wasn't fully focused, when I was just going about my routine. Then last week, it got worse. Or better. I don't know how to categorize this. I was getting ready for work, fixing my tie in the bedroom mirror. I was running late, stressed about a presentation, not really paying attention. I went to adjust the knot, and my reflection didn't just move first. It fixed the tie differently. It did this perfect Windsor knot while I was fumbling with a basic 4 in hand. For a moment, we were completely out of sync, doing different things entirely. I froze. My reflection froze too, but its tie was perfect while mine was a mess. We stared at each other, and I swear it looked as confused as I felt. Then, slowly, its hands moved to its tie and undid the perfect knot, redoing it to match my messy one, like it was correcting itself to match me. I've been keeping a log since then. My reflection leads by about 0.5 seconds on average, but only when I'm not consciously watching for it. It's gotten up to a full 2 seconds a few times. And twice more, it's done something completely different than what I did, then corrected itself. Yesterday was the worst, or the best. I still can't decide. I was in the bathroom at work, washing my hands. Completely mundane. I glanced up at the mirror just as someone opened the door behind me. In the mirror, I saw my coworker Dave walk in. But here's the thing. My reflection turned to look at him before I heard the door. A full second before the actual door opened, my reflection was already turning. It knew Dave was coming before it happened. I've been thinking about this non-stop. Is my reflection somehow existing slightly in the future? Is it trying to warn me about something? Is it a different version of me that's slightly out of phase with this reality? I've started avoiding mirrors when I can, but it's impossible to avoid them completely. And part of me doesn't want to. Because what if my reflection knows something I don't? What if it's trying to help? This morning, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror and just watched. For 5 minutes, we moved in perfect sync. Then, right as I was about to leave, my reflection mouthed something. Words I didn't say. I couldn't read its lips, my own lips, but it looked urgent. Tonight, I'm going to try something. I'm going to stand in front of the mirror and let my reflection lead completely. Not move at all until I see it move first. See how far ahead it really is. See what it's trying to tell me. I know this sounds insane. I'm a normal person with a normal job and a normal life. But my reflection is not normal anymore, and I need to understand why. If you've noticed your reflection doing anything weird, even tiny things, please let me know. Maybe we can figure this out together. You know, that reflection story hits different for me. When I was a kid, I had this recurring nightmare where my reflection would stay still when I walked away from mirrors, just standing there, watching me leave. Haven't thought about that in years, but now I'm definitely going to be paying more attention to mirrors. Actually, you know what? Let me know if you've ever had dreams about mirrors or reflections. I'm curious if there's some universal unconscious thing we all share about them. Anyway, let's keep going with these stories, because the next batch is absolutely wild. Story 9. The Multiplying Phone Phenomenon by Digital Duplicate. I'm typing this on my phone. My original phone, I think. At this point, I honestly can't be sure which one is the real one anymore. 2 weeks ago, I was at a coffee shop working on my laptop. Had my phone sitting next to me on the table, face down like always. I went to the bathroom, came back, and there were 2 phones on my table. Identical phones. Same case, same crack in the screen protector in the bottom left corner. Same weird scratches on the case from when I dropped it on gravel last month. My first thought was, someone was pranking me. But who has an identical phone with identical damage? I picked them both up. Both had my fingerprint unlock. Both opened to my apps, my photos, my messages. Not copies, the same everything, synced perfectly. I sat there for probably 10 minutes, just switching between them. Send a text on one, it appears in the sent messages on both. Take a photo on one, instantly in both galleries. Delete something on one, gone from both. They weren't just connected, they were the same phone existing twice. I put one in my pocket and one in my bag and left. Figured maybe it was some weird tech glitch and one would stop working. But they both kept working perfectly. Both received calls simultaneously. When I answered on one, the other would show an active call but be silent. Here's where it gets complicated. The next day, I had 3 phones. I woke up, and there was one on my nightstand where I'd left it, one in my bag where I'd put it, and one on my kitchen counter. Same phone, same damage, same everything. All 3 fully functional. By the end of that week, I had 7. They kept appearing, not duplicating when I watched. I never saw it happen. They'd just be there. I'd reach into my jacket pocket and find one I didn't put there. Open a drawer, and there's another one. Check my car, and there's one in the cup holder. I tried everything. Turned them all off. They stayed off, but more appeared. Put them all in a box and taped it shut. The box still had 7, but there were 3 more around my apartment. Gave one to my friend to take home. It was back in my possession the next morning, and he had no memory of me giving it to him. Currently, I have 12. I've stopped counting every day because the number makes me anxious. They all work. They're all synced. They're all real. I can hold all 12 at once if I really try. The weight is right, the heat when they charge, everything. My phone bill shows one phone. My carrier account shows one device. But I have 12 physical phones that are all the same phone. I've started leaving them places just to see what happens. Left one at work. It was on my desk at home when I got back. Threw one in a public trash can, found it in my car later. Even mailed one to my sister in another state. She texted me the next day asking why I sent her an empty envelope, and the phone was back in my apartment. They want to stay with me. Or they have to stay with me. Or they're all the same phone just existing in multiple places at once, and those places have to be near me. I'm not scared exactly, just deeply confused. What happens when I need to upgrade? Do I get 12 new phones? What if they keep multiplying? At what point does this become genuinely problematic? For now, I've distributed them around my life. One in each room, one in my car, one at work. It's actually kind of convenient. Never have to worry about forgetting my phone because there's always one nearby. But I know this isn't normal. I know reality doesn't work this way. Has anyone else experienced objects multiplying? Not losing things and finding them. Actually having multiple copies of the same singular object. Because I need to know if this is happening to others, or if I'm somehow the chosen one of phone multiplication. Here's another time slip story, but this one is really brief and really unsettling. Story 10. 5 minutes forward by Anonymous. Yesterday at 2:15 p.m., I watched my husband die in a car accident. At 2:20 p.m., he walked through the front door, perfectly fine. I was working from home, sitting at my desk by the window that overlooks our street. I saw his blue Honda coming down the road, watched a delivery truck run the stop sign, saw the collision happen right in front of our house. The sound was horrible, metal crushing, glass exploding. I screamed and ran outside. The scene was exactly what you'd expect. His car was destroyed. The delivery truck had T-boned the driver's side. There was blood on the airbag. I was on my knees in the street, calling 911, when I heard his voice behind me. "Honey, what's wrong? What happened?" I turned around, and he was standing in our doorway. Same clothes he'd left in that morning, holding his laptop bag, completely unharmed. I looked back at the street, empty. No accident, no broken glass, no delivery truck, just our quiet suburban road with nothing out of place. My husband ran over to me. I was apparently kneeling in the middle of an empty street, crying hysterically. I couldn't explain it. How do you tell someone you just watched them die? How do you explain that their car was just destroyed, but now it's sitting perfectly fine in the driveway? But here's the thing. At 2:20 p.m., exactly 5 minutes after I saw the accident, a delivery truck did run that stop sign. My husband had stopped at the gas station for a drink, so he wasn't there. But our elderly neighbor was walking his dog right where the impact would have happened. The truck missed him by inches because the driver swerved at the last second, saying later that he suddenly felt like something terrible was about to happen. I watched something that didn't happen, but it was going to happen. I saw 5 minutes into a future that got changed because I saw it? Because my reaction changed something? I don't know. My husband thinks I had some kind of panic attack or premonition, but I know what I saw. I can still hear the sound of that impact. I can still see the blood. It was real, completely real for those 5 minutes. And now, I can't stop wondering, how many disasters do we unconsciously prevent by seeing them before they happen? How many times has reality shown us a preview and then changed the channel? I haven't told my husband the full details. How could I? But I've been watching him constantly, terrified that death is still looking for him, that I only delayed something inevitable. Or maybe I saved him. Maybe that's why I saw it. Maybe sometimes we get 5 minutes forward to fix what's about to break. This next one is probably the longest and most detailed investigation we've received. And honestly, it's one that's kept me researching for weeks. Story 11. The Disappearing Building Project by You, Architectural Anomaly. I am an architectural photographer, and I need to document this somewhere before I start doubting my own memory. For 3 months, I photographed a building that no longer exists, and apparently never did. It started in July. I got a contract to document the construction of a new office complex in downtown Portland. 15 stories, modern glass and steel design, pretty standard stuff. The developer was Hadley Construction. I'd worked with them before. The project manager, Dave Simmons, met me on site for the initial walkthrough. I photographed that building twice a week for 3 months. I have thousands of photos showing the construction progress. Steel beams going up, glass panels being installed, the whole process. I chatted with the construction workers. I knew the security guard, Tom, who always had a thermos of terrible coffee and good stories about his grandkids. The building was beautiful. The architect had designed these incredible angular balconies that created a spiral pattern up the eastern face. I was particularly proud of a series of sunset shots I got in September, where the light hit those angles just right. On October 15th, I showed up for my regular Tuesday shoot, and the lot was empty. Not demolished, empty. Just a flat, paved lot being used for parking. No construction debris, no foundation, nothing. Like nothing had ever been built there. I stood there for probably 20 minutes, walking around the lot, trying to understand what I was seeing. I called Dave Simmons. The number was disconnected. I called Hadley Construction. They said they'd never heard of Dave Simmons, and they hadn't had any projects in Portland this year. I drove home and immediately pulled up all my photos. Thousands of images of that building, clear as day. The metadata all correct, GPS coordinates matching that lot. But when I drove back with my laptop to compare, still just an empty lot. I started investigating obsessively. City records showed no building permits for that address. The architecture firm whose name was on the plans had no record of the project. The Portland Business Journal, which had run a story about the development that I had a PDF of, had no such article in their archives. When I called them, they said they'd never covered any Hadley construction project. But I had the PDF. I had my invoice copies. I had email exchanges with Dave about shooting schedules. I had texts from Tom, the security guard, about making sure I could access certain areas. All of it still on my devices, but none of the people existed anymore. I reached out to some of the construction workers I'd connected with on LinkedIn. Their profiles were gone. The business cards I'd collected led to disconnected numbers and bounced emails. Then I started finding other traces. A coffee shop receipt from September 3rd that mentioned construction crew special discount. A parking ticket from August where the officer had written construction zone as the location. My GPS history showing me repeatedly visiting those exact coordinates. These little fragments that proved something had been there. The really unsettling part. My photos are changing. Not all at once, but gradually. The first thing I noticed was one construction worker in the background of a shot from August was gone. Just not there anymore. Then some of the architectural details started simplifying. The spiral balconies I mentioned. In my photos from last week, they were still there. When I checked yesterday, half the photos show straight, regular balconies. The building is being erased from my documentation, slowly, like it's being unbuilt from reality. I've backed everything up to multiple drives, printed hundreds of photos. But the prints are changing too. Slower than the digital files, but changing. Details softening, people disappearing. The building itself becoming more translucent in some shots. I went back to the lot yesterday with printouts, determined to talk to someone, anyone, who remembered. There's a food cart on the corner that's been there for years. The owner, Maria, knows me. I've been buying lunch from her for a decade. I showed her the photos. Maria, remember this building? You were selling lunch to the construction crew all summer. She looked at the photos for a long time, this strange expression on her face. Finally, she said, I think I do remember, but that can't be right. There's never been a building there. She remembered feeding construction workers. She remembered them ordering in bulk every lunch rush. But she simultaneously knew there had never been a building. Both truths existed in her mind at once, and I could see it was disturbing her. I've found 14 other people now who have this same contradiction in their memories when I show them the photos. They remember interacting with the building and the workers, but they also know it never existed. One woman broke down crying, saying she felt like her mind was splitting, trying to reconcile the two realities. My theory? That building existed in a different version of Portland, and somehow I was photographing across dimensional lines. Or maybe it was built in a parallel timeline that got erased, and my photos are the only evidence that's bleeding through. Or possibly the building exists in the future or the past, and for 3 months there was a temporal overlap that only certain people could perceive. But my photos are still degrading. Every day, the building becomes less solid, less real in the images. I estimate at this rate, within another month, I'll just have thousands of photos of an empty lot, and even I might start to forget. If you're in Portland and you remember construction at 425 SW Morrison Street this summer, please reach out. Please tell me you remember it too. Because once these photos finish fading, I'm terrified I'll convince myself I imagined the whole thing. And if buildings can just unexist, if 3 months of reality can just be erased, what else have we forgotten? What else has been deleted from our world while we weren't paying attention? Story 12. The Woman Who Kept Coming Back, by You Coffee Shop Chronicles. I manage a small coffee shop in Burlington, Vermont. We're not a chain, just a local place that's been here for 15 years. I know our regulars, I know our occasionals, and I definitely notice new faces. That's why I noticed her. The woman who kept being new. She first came in on September 3rd. I remember because it was the Tuesday after Labor Day, our first real busy day after the holiday weekend. Petite woman, maybe early 40s, silver hair in a pixie cut, wearing a green sundress with small sunflowers on it. She ordered a large oat milk latte with an extra shot and a blueberry scone. Paid cash, left a $2 tip. She came back the next morning. Same time, around 8:15. Same order, same green sundress. Which was weird, but hey, some people really like their routines. But here's the thing. She introduced herself again. Hi, I'm new in town. What do you recommend? The exact same words as yesterday. I played along, thinking maybe she didn't remember me, or was just being polite. But when she ordered, she acted like she'd never had our coffee before. Oh, you have oat milk. Perfect. The same delighted surprise as yesterday. This has been happening for 11 weeks. Every single morning, she comes in at 8:15. Always the same green sundress with sunflowers, even though it's November now and freezing outside. Always introduces herself as new in town. Always orders the same thing with the same surprised delight about oat milk. Always pays with a 20. Always leaves $2 in the tip jar. I've tested it. I've tried greeting her by name. She looks at me blankly. I've tried saying, "The usual?" She asks what I mean. I've had other employees serve her. She gives them the same introduction, same order, same everything. But here's what makes it genuinely unsettling. She's aging. Not day by day, but continuously during her visit. When she walks in, she looks exactly as she did that first day in September. Early 40s, bright-eyed, energetic. By the time she gets to the counter, there are subtle lines around her eyes that weren't there at the door. As she waits for her coffee, her hair gets slightly more silver. When she picks up her order, her hands are more wrinkled. And when she walks out, she's moving slower, more carefully, like someone in their 60s or 70s. Then the next morning, she's reset. Young again, walking in with the same spring in her step. I've recorded it. The aging is subtle but visible on camera. 15 minutes from entry to exit, and she ages what looks like 20 years, every single day. Last week, I couldn't take it anymore. I followed her out. She walked down the block, turned the corner onto Church Street, and vanished. Not gradually, not ducking into a building. She took a step and wasn't there anymore. I ran to the spot. Nothing. No alleys, no doors, nowhere she could have gone. But the weirdest part happened yesterday. She came in as usual, but after she ordered, she paused, looked right at me and said, "It's hard, isn't it? Watching it happen over and over." I froze. Before I could respond, she continued, "I can never stay. I try, but I always end up back at the beginning. Except you keep moving forward. That must be nice." Then she took her coffee and left, aging as always as she walked to the door. This morning, she was back. Same introduction. "Hi, I'm new in town." No recognition of yesterday's conversation. But as she left, she turned and looked at me with these old, tired eyes and mouthed the words, "Help me." I don't know how to help someone stuck in a temporal loop. I don't know why she ages and resets. I don't know why she had that one moment of awareness. But I know she needs help. And I know she's trapped. And I know that tomorrow at 8:15, she'll walk through that door again, young and cheerful, ordering the same coffee for the first time, for the 78th time. If anyone knows anything about time loops, temporal anomalies, or how to help someone who's stuck repeating the same morning while aging decades in minutes, please reach out. Because watching this happen every day is starting to affect me. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if I'm stuck in my own loop, just one that's longer, and I haven't hit my reset point yet. Okay, quick break here. If you've been experiencing anything similar to these stories, or if you have your own glitch to share, send them to the email in the description. Everything needs to be true, or at least true as far as you experienced it. Include as many details as you can remember, and let me know how you want to be credited. I read every single submission that comes in, and the really compelling ones end up in episodes like this. Also, we're building a database of these experiences, trying to map patterns and commonalities. The more data we have, the better chance we have of understanding what's happening. All right, let's dive into something different now.